In today's video, we have all the latest trade talk around the NHL. Today, we're talking about teams like the Canadiens, the Oilers, the Senators, as well as the big trade that almost happened between the Flames and the Devils. What held it up? Where did things go wrong? And could they revisit it? Plus, we get news as well regarding the NHL waiver wire. Brad Marchand gets into his 1,000th game tonight, and lots of other injuries and roster moves to update you on as well. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a lot of news and some trade rumors to cover here today. First up, we do have news from the NHL waiver wire. We had Zach McEwen from Ottawa on waivers yesterday. He did in fact clear, and he along with Kevin Mandolese have been reassigned from Ottawa down to their AHL affiliate with the Belleville Senators. That has been done so they can activate goaltender Anton Forsberg. So Forsberg is back tonight and is actually expected to make the start against one of his former clubs in the Columbus Blue Jackets. We also have a couple other players on waivers today, including Luke Phillip of the Chicago Blackhawks. He was injured, an Achilles injury in the preseason, so he's been out all season. Otherwise, he would have went through waivers and likely been assigned to the minors a long time ago, but they had to wait for him to be healthy, so that's now ready to go. So Luke Phillip's on waivers for the purpose of being assigned. We also have Pitlick as well from the New York Rangers. So there's a couple of off-season additions to the Rangers now between Bonino and Pitlick that have not really worked out and they've had on waivers. So we'll see how the Rangers want to address their bottom six heading into the NHL trade deadline. Lots of other updates around the league as well. Of course, mentioned with Ottawa, they activated Phillip. I keep going to call him Phillip, but Anton Forsberg. I don't know why I do that all the time. But Forsberg's been activated. Jake Sanderson is going to continue to be out. He's going to miss at least a few more games this week. It's possible he could return this weekend. They're kind of targeting that area. I believe they have a trip to Florida coming up to play the Lightning and the Panthers in the not too distant future. So he's probably going to be out for anywhere from another 5 to 7 days, depending on exactly when he's ready to go. Could be a little sooner, but that's what they're looking at right now. And Artem Zub is also a game time decision tonight. That's obviously not good to have two of your top four defensemen out of the lineup. Zub apparently suffered some sort of minor injury against the Leafs on Saturday night and just kind of taking the last couple of days off as maintenance days, and they're not sure if he can play through the injury or what have you tonight. So they will have to go with 5D if they get the news that Zub can't go tonight because they don't have any cap space to recall anybody, so they'll have to be a player short. And then for their next game on Thursday, they could do a emergency recall, which would likely be defenseman Tyler Kleven. So we'll see where that goes, but we'll wait on Zub's availability this evening, I guess. In Toronto, some more updates as well. Connor Timmins apparently has mono, which is typically not something that goes away very quickly. You can have mono for, I've seen people struggle with it for a couple of months even. So he has mono and is out indefinitely. Apparently Martin Jones also hurt. Not sure exactly when that happened. Not sure if that was Saturday against Ottawa. That was their last game, and he did start, so I'm assuming something happened to him as well during the game. Doesn't sound serious, but we don't really know a lot about it, so it could be, I guess. We'll have to wait and see. Dennis Hildeby has been recalled to be able to back up Samsonov, and then Giordano and Kampf are expected to be back tonight, but we don't know 100% until we get to game time. In Buffalo, Owen Power is going to be out at least a week. We did make mention of it in the last day or two that he was dealing with an injury. We weren't sure the extent of it. Now they're saying at least a week before return, so that's bad news there. They're already without Samuelson as well. So again, two of their top four defensemen not in the lineup. That's bad news all around. In Tampa, they're getting back Tanner Jeannot. He's been activated, will be in the lineup this evening. In Pittsburgh, Noel Acciari was obviously previously injured a few days ago, is officially now on injured reserve, so he'll retroactively be placed on that to his injury a few days ago. And in Dallas, we got word that Evgeny Dadonov is going to be out for a while. We don't know the exact timeline, but it said several weeks, and he suffered a fracture in the Montreal game. So likely going to be out. If it turns out to be regular season ending at the very least, that could impact obviously their ability to do things at the deadline. So we'll see where that goes. And in New Jersey, they did demote defenseman Santeri Hataka. I know some fans were upset about that, but Brendan Smith is ready to come back and has been activated. They had to find a spot on the roster, and he doesn't need waivers, so he can just be sent down where some other options would require waivers, so it makes it a little bit more complicated. The IIHF had their meeting as well regarding the future of Russia and Belarus being reinstated or continue to be suspended from international play, and they did vote on keeping Russia and Belarus out. So they are continue to be suspended from competing in international hockey for the 24-25 calendar of events. So looking like the 2026 Olympics would likely be the next major international hockey event where they could possibly come back and be let back in, but they will have another meeting. The IIHF apparently will be meeting annually until this is resolved, I guess, until things settle down and they get back in at some point, which we don't know when that's going to be. As far as the trade rumor section of the video, I do want to look at the Ottawa Senators. There's lots of updates today on Vladimir Tarasenko. We know he's on a one-year deal. Players on one-year deals, especially guys with experience and that can contribute for teams that are not in the playoffs, often get a lot of attention. Not all of them get moved, of course. Dave Pagnotta has been reporting. He appeared on a Sens podcast, the Coming In Hot podcast today with Brent Wallace and Bobby Ryan, talking about what some things to expect out of the Senators down the stretch here leading to the deadline. And regarding Tarasenko, based on what he said, Pagnotta himself, plus what Tarasenko himself said, I believe it was yesterday after morning skate, it really does sound like there's it's hard. It's no guarantee at all, of course, but it does sound like there's a real possibility that Tarasenko just may have a future to stay in Ottawa. But Pagnotta did make mention that it is possible that if a team that Tarasenko, because he has full no move here, if a team that he's interested in going to does want him, that maybe he goes to them for over at the deadline, has a chance to play in the playoffs, and then comes back in the summer. It's believed that they're definitely going to have conversations around a contract extension, so there is some degree, at the very least, of mutual interest. Like I said before, I think on the Sens side of it, Steve Staios is definitely going to talk to him and his agent. A lot of it's going to boil down to money in term. What they're going to want on their next deal. Obviously we thought it looked positive in a sense, the fact that Tarasenko changed his agent and he's now repped by Brady Tkachuk's uncle, who also reps a lot of the Sens players. Is that, positive sign for him to stay in Ottawa? Apparently the team really likes him. Well-liked teammate, good leader, like a lot of good things, very positive on and off the ice, good contributor. Has been doing well with goals and assists, contributing to the offense, which is great. Not too bad defensively. Had his moments a few times, like a lot of offensive players that, the back checking wasn't the most, as best as it could have been. But for them, generally speaking, he's not a player that puts them in danger on the defensive end of the puck. So that much we can say, and the analytics will back that up. There definitely would be a decent return, I would think, for him. Probably not a first round pick, but maybe they get a good prospect or maybe a second round pick, something decent in that sense, or maybe a decent young player. Hard to say exactly. We know he went to the Rangers last year. I don't know if there's mutual interest to reconnect on that again. But clearly Tarasenko will have the full shot calling here. I mean, that's why he got this in his contract the way he did, and we'll have to see where that goes. But ultimately, there is a possibility that he does not move and extends, or even if he does move, they could come back. His family apparently is quite happy there, and there is interest. But like I said, a lot of it's going to boil down to finding that fit. If they can get him on a 2 or 3 year extension at no more than what he's making right now, which is $5 million, then the Senators would probably want to do that. Does Vladimir want to do that, though? I don't know. Maybe he's got his set sight on making more, getting a longer-term deal. It's difficult to say. So if things line up, he could stay. If not, he could go, and we'll see where that is here in the next few weeks. We got a big update today on the blockbuster deal that was being discussed between the Flames and the Devils. James Nichols is reporting that the holdup here and the reason this deal fell apart and didn't happen was not anything to do with Jacob Markstrom's no-move clause. Apparently the deal was serious enough, and they thought it was firm enough to take the deal to Jacob Markstrom to ask him to waive his no-move clause, and apparently he did. He agreed to waive to go to New Jersey, which is, phenomenal in a sense to get a big trade like that, but it's believed that salary retention is the part that held things up. I've seen a lot of different opinions out there of why it fell apart. It's like they're not going to go to Markstrom and ask him to waive if they don't have a solid deal that they're happy to do. It's believed that the salary retention is the part that wouldn't work out, and I think the team and Craig Conroy, I think, was willing to do that. At least that's my guess. That's my assumption, and that ownership vetoed it down. Because at the end of the day, the Flames, unless it's on a short-term deal, have never done a salary retention except for expiring contract. And even then, they don't care to do it a lot either. So I understand why owners would not want pay a part of a salary that's not on their books helping their team anymore, but it is just part of doing business. And this team needs a bit of an overhaul, and it would certainly help a long ways. Now, we don't know exactly what the package was going back to Calgary. It's believed Alexander Holtz might have been involved. I've seen other people suggest it could have been Dawson Mercer or some variation of a package that would include at least one of those players. But the Flames were obviously happy to do business, and the Devils were as well. And Markstrom was willing to waive. And the only way that the salary retention doesn't work on that is ownership rejecting it, because any GM is going to have to go to its owner to get him to sign off on that, because they're the ones paying the bills. And we know the Calgary ownership group is notorious for not wanting to do that. So could they revisit that? Could Craig Conroy work with his owner to figure something out? Maybe a different amount of retention than they originally discussed? Could a third team get involved? You have to think that it's something that the Devils want to do. The Devils are believed to have their eye on a couple of their goaltenders in case there's no chance of this deal being revived. It's believed they've also had interest in Columbus Blue Jackets goalie Elvis Merzlikins, who might come at a cheaper price, and the Jackets might be more willing to play ball on the retention part. So that might prove to be easier, but I don't know if it's really the better option for them. But we will see. So we'll see if the Devils do get themselves involved. I know, again, UC Saros' name came up today with Friedman and Merrick on the Jeff Merrick show, and one of Merrick's guests as well discussing the Predators. It's really sounding more and more likely that a lot of these reporters are pretty well convinced that the Preds are not for sure going to move Saros, but it just makes so much sense to do it, that if the right offers come in, that you have to think they're going to listen. So you got to think that the Devils would be a terrific fit for him as well. So, would Saros be a better option than Merzlikins? It would be, for sure. So we'll see where things go. I mean, we also heard Jack Hughes last night after the Devils won their game, saying that it makes it easier to win when you get the saves. And I'm sure he meant that as a compliment to goalie Nico Dawes, who played last night, but it certainly has kind of been taken and twisted, saying that maybe it's a shot at the team in general, to management, that we need better goaltending. We got it tonight, but we're not really, expecting it night in, night out on a consistent basis, because it hasn't been there. So we'll see where that goes. Noah Hanifin, of course, probably along with Jake Gensel, the top two names on the top of most trade bait boards leading to the deadline. We can add another team that's interested, according to reporters, that the Tampa Bay Lightning have entered the mix, of course, with Mikhail Sergachev likely being finished for the regular season. Then that opens up a huge LTIR pool. So affording a guy like Hanifin is doable. Obviously, they were already looking for some improvements on the blue line and some more depth, and then they lost Sergachev. So now they're looking for multiple D, but they need somebody who can do the things that Sergachev can do, and there's not many guys out there that would be available for trade that could do that, but Hanifin is one of them. So we'll see. I know lots of other teams have been linked to Hanifin. We've heard a package involved with the Devils for him and Markstrom both. We've heard Toronto seems to be connected to everybody, although I don't think they're going to be able to do a whole lot myself. But they have been involved. We've heard the Bruins when it comes to Hanifin, and for the Dallas Stars, the Lightning would not be surprising at all. I think if the Lightning did do that, it definitely would be more of a rental situation where some teams are going to want an extension. So we'll see on Hanifin. Some interesting comments as well from Oilers GM Ken Holland regarding what he may do ahead of the deadline when it comes to young prospect defenseman Philip Broberg. He said that he can't see him trading him, whereas a lot of NHL reporters were saying that he absolutely was available and would be one of the main trade chips used for them to make upgrades at the deadline, because they want to go all in to try to win the Stanley Cup this year. Obviously, after the long run they did to get back into the playoff mix, they were pretty confident in their abilities to do that. And now but at the same time, you got to remember, GMs aren't going to come out and give you all their plans. So you got to take it all with a grain of salt, right? That's just the way things go. So with Edmonton saying that they don't want to move Broberg, that maybe he's trying to boost his value, thinking, teams are going to have to pony up their offers if they want to come get him. But he said, a young 22, 23-year-old defenseman, 6'4", that has the skill set of Broberg is hard to come by, and they don't want to move him. So maybe in a perfect world, they don't want to, but he is a prime target that teams are going to be looking for when trying to discuss some of these deals that the Oilers are reportedly interested in doing ahead of the trade deadline. So we'll see. That might not be a guy that moves, but is Holland just kind of, saying the right things to the media to make sure people know that they're going to have to pony up to get him? We'll see. In Montreal as well, another guy that's getting a lot of interest is David Savard, We've had mixed reports on his availability. The latest intel suggests that Ken Hughes and the Montreal Canadiens are not necessarily shopping Savard. They're not out there actively trying to move him, but they are getting a lot of interest. There's a lot of teams that are expressing interest, including teams like the Edmonton Oilers who want to improve their defensive side of the puck on the blue line. Habs also getting interest from teams like Dallas and Toronto and Tampa, of course, who I just mentioned, looking for D. Savard, of course, played in Tampa before, helped them win a Stanley Cup, so quite familiar there. But a guy who can be a defensive style, but also decent at moving the puck, block shots, good in the penalty kill, good leader, has experience in the playoffs, has experience winning a cup. So lots of value there. Doesn't mean, like I said, that the Habs are out there looking to move him. Apparently the price tag that Hughes is looking for is high. So if they get the right deal, they'll do it. And if not, they're quite happy to hang on to him and keep him in the organization for another year, as he's a good mentor to some of the younger D and certainly still provides a lot of value to what he can do on the ice with them. So we'll see if a team is willing to pony up enough to get Savard out of Montreal, who still has one more year left on his contract. So let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. Of course, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.